Hello again. With this video, I would like to summarize and repeating the most important information regarding the transport system and blood, the introduction. First, let's try to answer the question, what is the need for transport system? Do all organisms have it, or there are maybe some organisms without? Okay. The answer is very simple. Unicellular organisms, they do not need a transport system at all. Why? It's because they have so large surface area to volume of a cytoplasm that diffusion of gases or diffusion of nutrients or active transport through the membrane is completely efficient and enough. The problem is with multicellular organisms, because as they grow, their surface area, so the area of the internal body surface, where the place of contact with the environment is not sufficient to the volume. We described this problem in cell biology when we were talking about the multi and unicellular organisms with the surface area to volume ratio. So multicellular organisms, they surface area to volume ratio decreases. So the diffusion through the membranes, diffusion through the most external cells is not enough. Moreover, multicellular organisms, because they have higher metabolic rate, because they need to feed more cells, because they need to move and conduct many complex processes, they have a higher metabolic rate, and diffusion through the membrane, once again, is not enough to, for instance, supply enough oxygen to the tissues or the glucose from the environment to all cells of the body. Okay, so let us see now how the transport system look like in various organisms. Briefly speaking, some multicellular organisms of most simple structure, they don't have a circulatory system, such as porifera, so sponges, flatworms, so platelmintes, and roundworms, so the nematodes. Their bodies are flat, or their bodies are small enough to be able to take the nutrients, take the gases through the body surfaces. The other solution found in animals is the open circulation, found in arthropods, so insects, ticks, spiders, and crustaceans, and mollusks. The open circulation is basically made of a blood vessel, which acts as a heart. You can see it over here, okay? And it has holes through which the blood flows in, and one main blood vessel that opens into the body cavity, okay? So the liquid that is pumped, it's called hemocell, is transported around the organs into the limbs and goes back to the heart through these openings here. As you can imagine, this is not a very efficient system. That's why insects cannot grow too large, because the fluid that flows does not supply the organism with many nutrients and oxygen, because rich in oxygen liquid mixes with carbon dioxide rich liquid, so basically it is not very efficient. The efficiency increases when the circulation closes. What does it mean? It means that the blood flows only in blood, in blood vessels, so it does not flow around the organs in uncontrolled way, but it is led by the arteries, veins, and capillaries in very systematic and organized way. Closed circulation may be found in all chordates, so this is their common feature. Okay, so chordates including fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And what is very interesting in evolutionary, from evolutionary point of view, in annelids, which are, as we know, invertebrates. So this phenomenon is very interesting. Here we see that two similar features, meaning the closed circulation, developed twice in evolution of animals. Okay, so briefly speaking, in case of fish, the circulation is closed, and but there is only one circulation. Okay, so we can see that the blood pumped by the heart flows directly to gills, and here there is a gas exchange. So blood is oxygenated and flows to all the organs. Then it returns back to the heart and again is pumped into the gills. As you can see, some parts of the body of fish are not oxygenated intensively. The other parts have well saturation of tissues with blood. So this circulatory system still is not the top in intensity. The most developed circulatory system is found in birds and mammals, where the blood that is oxygenated does not mix completely with deoxygenated blood. Therefore, on this illustration, you can see that oxygenated blood flows separately from lungs, where it is oxygenated, through the heart, where it is pumped, so the blood pressure is increased, and into the capillaries of all organs that require high oxygen levels. Then it returns back to the heart via veins, collecting the blood from all the organs, and then it flows into the lungs for oxygenation. Okay, the fact that left and right side of the heart, meaning oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, is separated completely, increases effectiveness of a circulatory system to the level allowing these organisms, so birds and mammals, to keep constant body temperature. Okay, this feature, so the circulation, double circulation in these two groups, is due to one of the reasons, not the only one, of their stable body temperature. Okay, and with that table, you can see the comparison between open circulation and closed circulation with 1 and 2 circuits. Okay, I hope this is clear. What's the role of the transport system in general? On example of a human, the first main role of transport system is, of course, to deliver all the nutrients. We know that from human physiology, from the digestive system, that they are transported from our intestines to all cells of the body through the liver, of course. Second role of the transport system is, of course, transportation of oxygen. Oxygen, of course, is required for cellular respiration, which is conducted in all cells of the body. So blood is oxygenated in lungs and then delivered to all cells of the organism. Third role, distribution of hormones. Our transport system is engaged in keeping the homeostasis, regulation of processes by hormones. Hormones released from endocrine glands directly to blood. They are transported to target cells to do some action. For instance, when we get nervous, the adrenaline, which is released from adrenal glands, is transported around the body, causing different changes in different organs, raising the blood glucose level, raising awakeness, diluting the pupils, and so on. Okay, the transport system is also engaged in this, what we call excretion. One of the products of metabolism is carbon dioxide. It is technically toxic in higher concentrations. That's why it must be removed from cells to lungs. Finally, the second excretory product is, for instance, urea. It is transported from liver to kidneys. Liver is a place where urea is produced. It is a product of metabolism of amino acids, and it is also harmful in higher concentrations. Finally, the heat. Distribution of warmth, okay, into the body or outside, depending on the environment conditions. As we know, the blood is full of water. Water has very high specific heat capacity, so it distributes the heat from place to place. The last function of blood is distribution of antibodies. So, completely another option, another role, another topic. It will be extended in immunity, distribution of antibodies. So the defense against viruses and bacteria. Okay, let's talk about the blood. The blood, we know from the animal tissues lesson, belongs to connective tissues, which means that it has a significant amount of extracellular material. So the first components of blood are cells. Okay, we call them morphotic elements. That's why, sorry for my writing, but I'm not used to write in that way. When we examine blood cells, we say that we do morphology of blood. Yeah. Okay, and the second component of our blood is plasma. Okay, and the ratio of both components is approximately 45% of cells and 55% of plasma. Let's take a look at cells. Here you can see the hematopoiesis. This is the process of development of blood cells from stem cells. Okay, so those of you who remember the stem cell topic, may remember that the cells of these features are able to replace the old ones. This process takes place in our red bone marrow, in our bones, and leads to formation of cells we will be interested the most. So erythrocytes, so red blood cells, the large group of white blood cells, including basophils, neutrophils, eosinophils, and monocytes, and the other fraction of leukocytes, so T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, also known as T cells and B cells. Oh, I'm sorry. And the last group of morphotic elements are the thrombocytes, which actually are the remainings of megakaryocytes, which are the cells in red bone marrow that breaks continuously, releasing their remainings into the blood. You may ask what the process is here. Okay, that leads to formation of the thrombocytes. Probably you heard about apoptosis. Okay, what's the role of the cells? The first, the red blood cells, of course, we know them very well because they are very famous cells introduced very quite soon at biology in primary school. Even we know that they lack nucleus, that they have a biconcave shape, and their role is to transport oxygen because they are filled with hemoglobin. Why they have shape like that? Let me draw this. Okay, so it is stated that the shape of a red blood cell, this is the drawing of a cell across, and how it looks like from the, let's say, top. So the shape of a biconcave disc, yeah, biconcave disc. Okay, the role of these concaves is to let the oxygen into the middle of the cell. Imagine the red blood cell as a sphere, okay, and if red blood cell would be like that, the cone perfectly round like a ball, the area most far away from the surface probably would not be completely filled with oxygen, meaning hemoglobin would not be oxygenated. That's why there is a shape. Why there is no nucleus? The lack of nucleus is because red blood cell cannot carry much metabolic processes as it has to carry the oxygen to other cells. That's why its metabolism is very low. That's why it will never divide. So it is in G0 stage, right? So it will never divide again. And it also lacks many organelles. The space is needed for hemoglobin, okay? The role of white blood cells. Let me go back to illustration. As you can see, these three groups of cells, so basophils, neutrophils, and eosinophils, they have a very specific feature. They have dots in the cytoplasm. So we call them granules. So that's why the cells are called granulocytes. Okay. The other specific feature of these cells is the shape of nucleus. It is not round. It is a form of a chain, yeah, or a kind of a sausage-like, okay? The three groups of cells, basophils, neutrophils, and eosinophils, in general, are responsible for our non-specific immunity. In the table in the next page, you may read about them, that their role is to produce toxins against diseases, is be engaged in inflammatory reactions and conduct phagocytosis. Let me say a few words about these cells. In case of neutrophils, the neutrophils, they are the famous phagocytes. So this is for the neutrophils, okay? Phagocytosis, neutrophils, okay? Inflammatory reactions in which histamine or heparin is released is a characteristic feature of basophils. And production of toxins against diseases, against bacteria, for instance, is a characteristic feature of eosinophils. Okay, what's the source of these names, eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils? When we perform morphology, one of the identification methods for cells is staining them with specific staining substances. Basophils, they react to alkaline stains, neutrophils to stains with pH 7, and eosinophils, where they react to acidic dyes. That's why we have different terms for different cells. The second group, so monocytes and lymphocytes TNV, they belong to group of agranulocytes. You can see there are no granules in the cytoplasm. Monocytes, they main role is similar to neutrophils because they conduct phagocytosis. In many parts of our textbook and workbook, you will read about macrophages, the cells that play an essential role in phagocytosis, or for instance, clumped bacteria, clumped viruses, or even toxins. T cells and B cells, they belong to our precise immune machinery, which develops from the moment when we are born. Just in few words today, because it will be extended in immune system, the T cells, so lymphocytes T, they produce toxins that kill bacteria. So antibacterial toxins are produced by lymphocytes T, whereas B cells, when they are activated by our immune system, they turn into plasma cells and they secrete huge amounts of antibodies. And antibodies, together with toxins, they act to kill the microbes. Okay, so together they fight with infectious diseases. Let's go to plasma now, because this is also very complex mixture of substances. Of course, as most of our body, it consists mainly of water, yeah, which is a perfect solvent for polar substances, and it carries nutrients, yeah, from the small intestine to the liver. Some of them are dissolved directly in plasma, those that are water soluble, so glucose, amino acids, ions. However, some of them have to be carried by various proteins. They are not included here in the presentation, but you may find them in the workbook. We call them alpha and beta globins. Another group of plasma proteins are the albumins, which maintain osmotic balance. Our blood must be buffered. The pH of blood must be kept within 7.35. Okay, so the osmotic balance 7.35 pH to 7.45, so quite narrow. Fibrinogen, it is a protein involved in blood clotting. When injury is detected, fibrinogen is hydrolyzed, so it turns from globular into a fibrous protein and is used as ropes to close the wounds of in our blood vessel, for instance. Ions, a very important group of substances. Some of them again, they keep the osmotic balance. They are involved in transport of other substances. For instance, sodium, mentioned in digestion, is involved in absorption of glucose. Calcium, a very important ion for muscle contraction, for blood clotting, and for mineralization of our bones. Urea, as we mentioned, the waste product must be released from the organism unless when it is not released, the patient may have a symptom called jaundice. Yeah, so the body turns yellow, for instance, eyes. Carbon dioxide transported from tissues to lungs. In separate topic, we will explain why. Now we just need to know that it's transported in form of high bicarbonate ions. Okay, let me just correct my mistake in spelling, because of course this is this minus should be in upper index, not in the lower index. Okay, of course, and here the mistakes will be corrected a little bit later. Okay, antibodies. The antibodies, they detect the foreign materials called antigens, yeah, which are not our proteins or glycoproteins. So detection of antigens, okay, and alarming the body about the infection. Hormones transported from glands to target cell to control the metabolism.